welcome to a new project of mine. As you can see, it's going to be a snow-themed build. The snow has always been something I've avoided in Cities Skylines, as it just doesn't quite look right. It's definitely the most visually underdeveloped season in the game, and so it poses a unique challenge in making beautiful builds in this season. I was initially inspired by Canadian Moose's Winter Series, which led me down the rabbit hole of making a snow decal pack to better detail and blend the snow in this game. By the time you're watching this video, the snow decal pack will have been released to PDX mods, so if any of you would like to download those decals for yourself, you can find them on PDX mods. One thing to note, in this video I'm still using a beta version of the snow decals, which have some slight imperfections in the coloring and blending of the decals. This has all been polished up, and you can see what they look like in the outro cinematics. Right now, I'm just getting the initial road layout started. I wanted to go for a very much traditional grid structure. This is a North American themed build, and I imagine it being somewhere in the West where most cities were being built in grids by that point in time. We're going to be breaking it up with lots of alleyways and interesting shapes and designs, but for the most part, it will be all on the backbone of a very strict grid setup. I'm using Road Builder to get some on-street parking for part of our main street. I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to be the busiest part of town. We've got a lot of area to build out, but this section will have a nice boulevard and lots of mixed-use zoning with shops on the bottom. I want to approach this build from the standpoint of this isn't the type of place that necessarily stays snowy all the time. They might not have amazing infrastructure to handle the snow, so the roads are still a bit icy and there's lots of drifts and piles of snow everywhere. I want to capture the feeling of a specific moment in time when creating this build, so it feels more personal and story-rich. I'm very much approaching this from the standpoint of a diorama of sorts. I want to go super crazy with the details and create something that really feels alive. So this series might be a bit more slow-paced and you won't see huge expansions with each episode. I know a lot of you are already familiar with how I do things in Angler Creek, for instance, but I want to set the expectation now that this will be a slow, methodical process that will hopefully result in a rich and lived-in feeling world over time. And I hope you all will join me for the process. There's going to be several layers of detail I'm applying to these streets. I don't want to immediately slap the snow over a blank surface. Even though the snow will cover a lot of the fine details, some details will still shine through, and so I'm taking my time. In real life, the roads are still cracked and dirty, even when there's snow covering it, so I'm going to have the same approach here. I've started finding more decals that look a bit better when you lower them into the ground. In a lot of the areas in Angler Creek, I would just slap a decal down and call it a day, but recently I found I like it better when the decals are a little bit more opaque and blend with the existing road texture instead of just completely covering it. It's all little improvements in technique that help the overall picture. I know I was going back and looking at some of my old builds from when I started this channel and seeing just how far things have come. I have to give myself a little credit because there was a serious lack of mods back then, but I like to think I've made improvements in my detailing abilities over the last 6 to 12 months. Well, I don't want to talk your ear off. I'll leave you with some music and be back in a bit to explain some of my techniques and ideas when they come up. this church asset. I feel like it really makes this whole intersection having the church here, and it fits the aesthetic perfectly. And here I am using the generic lemons graffiti from Booty Addict's content creator graffiti pack. Big shout out to Booty Addict. Every time I'm watching a Cities Skylines video and I see one of these, it makes my day, and they've been putting out a ton of really good packs recently. You should definitely check out their page on PDX Mods if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you so much, Booty Addict, for including me in that pack. I really love seeing that graffiti around, being able to use it in game. So here is whenever I start using this specific decal to make a frost effect on the roads. Essentially, I lower it 0.4 meters into the ground, then just evenly place it over the surface, and it gives this really good frost effect. You can then place multiple over each other to make it a little bit stronger in that area, so you can make the edges a little more frosty than the middle and have a lot of fine control on how much snow you want on a surface and where. This is one of my favorite decals, if not my favorite decal that I created. If you end up using these decals, you definitely got to check this technique out. Also, if you use these decals and you find a good use case for them that I haven't done in this video, definitely let me know. I assume if this series is going to go on for a bit, I'll keep making small additions to the pack just as needed. If you have any ideas for additions, definitely let me know. So far, it seems through layering they're pretty versatile, but I can already tell where there may be some areas of improvement from using them as much as I have. So I'm keeping an open mind as to how to make this pack as useful as possible, not only for myself, but for anyone who chooses to download it. So here's kind of an interesting technique I found. Essentially, I didn't want the ground here to be perfectly covered with snow. I wanted it to be patchy, like someone was coming through and shoveling the snow, but then more snow fell on top, and that combined with the footpath has created these really uneven, rough patches. So I used a stained surface for general roughness, then went and layered even further with one of the rocky surfaces. It just breaks through the snow in a really nice way that created that effect, and I love it. wraps it up. I really enjoyed building this one. I hope you all enjoyed watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you excited to see more of this build? Do you want to see more Angler Creek instead? Big shout out to Canyon Tiger and Clovis Grunty for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys very much. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing. I'll see you all in the next one.